Okay, so, hi. I'm Brooke.
I'm Sam.
And we are Empress Evolved. And we are doing an introduction to witchcraft video today.
Welcome to our channel for our first video.
Welcome to our channel. We are figuring this out as we go, so bear with us. We're going to probably have to edit this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be fun. So before we even get into anything, I want to put a disclaimer out there that she and I both worked on, that we will probably be kind of repeating every video, not the entire thing, but for our first video, we want to make sure that we are letting you guys know this. So we do not claim to know everything on this subject matter. We do not even consider ourselves experts. The things that we are going to be discussing here may not be for everybody, as witchcraft is a really personal journey. It's going to be different for everybody. We would love to hear your input on how your practice differs from our practice. Nobody is going to be the same. It's going to be different. This is intended to be a positive space. So anytime that you are interacting with us, we do ask that your input be positive and welcoming for new witches or people that are interested in what we have to say. And like I said in the beginning here, we understand that this is not for everybody, and that is totally fine. We respect all of your beliefs as well as your own personal journey. This is our personal journey that we're sharing with you that will hopefully resonate with a lot of people out there. So to the rest of you, hi and welcome. And you need what? We said snacks, you need drinks, you need comfy clothes.
A blankie.
A blankie, whatever you need. Get comfy, settle in, and let's get into our introduction. So we're reading off of our phone here. We originally were going to do it on the iPad, but then the iPad decided that's what it wanted to film. So that's what we're going to do.
It's just been chaos so far.
Chaos. It's been like 3 hours of figuring this out. So we're hoping that going forward this will be a little bit smoother, but we're learning as we go. So
Welcome to video one.
Video one. If you have any input, you let us know.
Okay, so a little bit about us as far as what we do.
So I'm a makeup artist. I have been doing this for, God, I've been digging through my mom's Mary Kay since I was a kid. And I met Sam probably about 8 or 9 months ago, and we connected right off the bat, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about what she does.
I'm a photographer, and I've been doing photography for about 13 years now. And we decided to team up and put our arts together. Mm-hmm. And then we also discovered that we have other things in common, like witchy stuff. We decided to make a YouTube video about it.
So that's what we're going to do. And I think when we counted, we had almost an entire year if we do weekly videos. That is how many ideas that we have for you guys. So anything you guys want to see, let us know. We are so happy to research. We want to learn in this whole process with you guys. Some of the ideas that we have for this channel, and of course I'm sure that'll build and grow as we see what you guys are interested in, but eventually I do plan on doing Sam's makeup when we're on camera and kind of introduce to you guys my talents, what our interactions are like together, because when we're together, it is not just we're slapping makeup on your face and taking pictures of you. We have been described as an experience. Together, we are an experience. So that's what we want to give to you guys. That's what we want to showcase in these videos, because we really want to build an awesome client base with all of you and grow our business and tell you guys what we're all about. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Okay, let's get into the witchy stuff.
Witchy stuff.
Okay, so how did you get into the witch stuff?
So I learned a little bit later in life that it's something that my mom actually dabbled in when she was younger. So that was a really interesting thing for me to learn. And I kind of started, it would have been about 14 or 15 years ago now. And I spent a very long time, it was about 2 years, and I was researching every religion that I could get my hands on. Like, I'm talking everything from LaVeyan Satanism to Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Catholicism, branches off of those religions. And I just wanted to find something that resonated with me. And about that second half of that 2 years was entirely enveloped by witchcraft and the craft and Wicca and paganism and everything that's encompassed in that. And my craft has just kind of grown over the last, I would say, about a decade to 12 years. That's how long I've been doing this. But your experience was a lot different. So tell me about yours.
See, I still consider myself a baby witch, even though you don't consider me a baby witch. See, I've had gifts, or whatever you want to call them, powers. Mm-hmm. I've been in tune with things for since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that there was a word for it. I didn't know that there was anything to make of it because, like, you had family background in it. I didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to make of it. So I just would have to deal with, like, saying that I had a sensitivity to, like, spirits and things like that. And then once the whole witch talk scene came on TikTok,
witch talk,
it kind of opened up my mind to the possibility that there could be more to it than just being able to communicate with spirits and things like that. So that kind of opened my eyes to it, and then getting started, it's a whole big world and it's scary.
But so, even with that being said, with your journey connected to mine so well, because I've always had gifts myself that I didn't act on because I thought, okay, well, I've read about this, so maybe I'm just thinking this or that. And you have opened up so many doors from a spiritual aspect, and me being able to connect to spirits and really use my empathy and my clairsentience as gifts. And we'll talk about all that stuff later. But even though she is earlier in her journey than me, we learn so much from each other and we bounce off of each other so well. Speaking of that, I want to put something out there real quick. So Sam and I had our birth charts read, which was such an awesome experience. If you guys want her information, her name is Alex. She is phenomenal. It was such an awesome experience. We had requested a tarot reading because we wanted to kind of know from a third-party perspective what our business was going to be like. So we're like, okay, you are getting these readings, I'm getting these, what's yours? So that was our...
to have like an outside perspective.
Yes.
On stuff like
as
this.
a confirmation, a reassurance.
So it's kind of something, side note, I guess. When you discover that you have these abilities, it's cool to have another witch still do like tarot readings for you. And it kind of like validates things that you think on yourself as you're trying to grow and learn your powers and skills and things.
Because they can pick out things that you don't even notice because it comes so naturally to you. And that was stuff with me. You're like, Brooke, you're already doing this. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Like I used to teach horseback riding lessons, and some of the best advice I was given was that in order to be a really good instructor, I should take lessons from as many other instructors as I can to learn as much as I can from others in the way they teach. So I think that kind of applies to this too. Most definitely.
And with that, so we had our reading, and then we had requested our birth charts to be read too. And she had asked if we wanted to do that together or separately. And we were like, well, together, that's fine. Sure. Our birth charts are complete opposites, but complement each other in all of the perfect ways. So where I am a lot of energy and I am very intense and, have so many ideas, she is the one that helps me rein that in and put those ideas on paper and are grounded. She grounds me because I'm a little, sometimes I love.
But I think you kind of bring me out of my shell a little bit too.
Yeah. So with that birth chart reading, this is above and beyond a business thing for us. Like, we want to be there for you guys. We don't want to just build clientele. Like, we want to open up a discussion for people that were in our position. And, one thing we wanted to touch on when talking about how we started is the difference in resources that will kind of bring us into our next subject, which is kind of witches in the media and portrayal of witches and stuff like that. When I started, I was taking my butt to Barnes and Noble and any bookstores, occult stores I could get my hands on. I didn't drive when I was super young. I didn't drive until I was almost 20 years old. So I couldn't take myself to these stores. I didn't have other people. And the internet, when it came to the craft, was nothing like it is now.
Even now, it's very hard to find a lot of things. And then there's just so much. When you're starting out, like with me, now that I have all of that, and where I've just started with this in the last year or so, it's so intimidating because of gatekeepers. Then there's just a lot of there's false information and things like that you have to be careful of, and then there's just so many warnings.
My gosh, yes. It is a constant where I feel like you have to jump through hoops just to learn. I feel like not even to practice or to do. It is, you have 100 hoops to jump through before you can do this. And we're here to tell you that everybody's journey is different. That's not the case.
And I think something else to point out that is good for everyone to know on here, that this is a topic that you will never know everything there is to know. This is an
constant progression.
Endless amounts of learning. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why it's good, because it can relate to anyone of any experience level.
Absolutely.
Whether you're literally just starting to hear about witchcraft and think it might apply to you, or you've been doing this for 10 plus years.
Yeah. And we want to hear from all of you. We want to know your questions. We want to know your experiences. Just what I said in our beginning disclaimer, like, witchcraft is a journey for everybody. Everybody's is different. And we want to be able to apply what all of you have learned to our knowledge base, as well as applying what we've learned to give to you.
Right. Okay, so do you want to start with...
I think we should talk about the differences, because I feel like the words Wicca, witch, and pagan get thrown around all the time, and I think maybe specifying that is a good idea.
There's a lot when you get started about labels, and it's important to know that, like, you don't have to pick a label to start this.
No.
I still, like, don't label myself as anything right now, but, I mean, it's good to know the differences between labels, just to see what applies to you and what doesn't.
Absolutely. And you could just consider yourself a spiritual person. You don't have to claim a witch or a Wiccan or a pagan or whatever it is, and we'll go into all those in a minute, but labels have nothing to do with this.
Yeah, so don't let that intimidate you when you get started, and then they need to take what resonates with them.
Yes.
And how to recognize that. Like, how do you recognize when something resonates with you versus when it doesn't?
Yes. So that's a right out of the gate thing that we want to talk about, is you take what resonates with you on these journeys. So we'll kind of go into, because I'm sure the way that she feels when something resonates her is different than what it feels when something resonates with me. It is, for me, when something resonates or feels good or makes sense to apply to my life and my knowledge. It can be as simple as like an overall like body tingle, where I feel like, when your limbs start to fall asleep and you get that like little tingle in your arms or your scalp or whatever it may be. That is something that's resonating with me, that I can feel and that I want to apply to my personal journey. And if I don't get that feeling from something, then it's probably not the path for me, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm not going to learn about it or respect it. I'm just not going to practice in that way. And I'm sure that the way things resonate with you is different too.
I have felt like vibrations from things, but I think more so it's just things that really stand out to me and catch my attention.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
And like what people say a lot when you get into this is that there's no such thing as coincidence, and like if it feels right to you to go with your first gut instinct and not question things.
Gut instinct and intention. And we'll get into that every single video, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Intention is everything.
Also, like, when something resonates with me, like if we go to Witch Lab and I'm trying to find something, it really catches my attention. I'm like, I have to have this. And I'm such a, like, ADD person that, like, usually things just kind of pass me by. But things will stick out to me, and if it sticks out to me, I'm like, this was meant to be mine. Absolutely.
And I totally agree with that. And that can be with both physical items. So once you start gaining physical items for your craft, you'll notice what we mean by that. But it also could be a knowledge-based thing, kind of like what I was saying, where when you're reading things, like we'll talk about deities later on. Some people believe in 0 gods and goddesses. Totally okay. Some people believe in 10. Some people believe in 1. Some people believe that they're just representations of stuff. Whatever makes sense to you is what you are allowed to believe, I guess. Like, it's an overall understanding, but you don't have to take every piece of that and apply it to your craft and to your life. If it doesn't make sense to you, don't take it. Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, getting started, misconceptions. Because there's a lot.
So many misconceptions. And it's really frustrating as somebody who's been practicing for a long time, because I feel like witchcraft has really become such a big thing in just the last couple of years. So I felt very condemned towards the beginning of my practice. Like, I was a lot less open about it because of so many negative connotations surrounding the craft. But now it's becoming more of an open, welcome thing, and we really want to make sure that we're getting rid of those icky misconceptions that have nothing to do with us or, you know, any of us, really.
And I think it also adds a lot of intimidation to someone who's trying to get started in this and trying to navigate their way through it.
Absolutely, back to the gatekeeping and how
it's so
hard
intimidating.
that is.
And then it's like, it's already just so much to learn, but also like, coming from where I was when I started learning all of this, there's so much warnings that people give you where they're like, you need to be careful that you have to like treat your tarot cards this certain way, and you need to do this with your tarot cards, and it's like,
you can't buy your first set and
yeah, there's a lot of
so many
tarot cards,
rules,
so many rules, and then it's like so many warnings, and then like one of the things that I read when I first got started was that I should do nothing but just read everything I can about witchcraft and learn as much as I can and study everything, study. It was like, I felt like I needed to make flashcards, and I'm like, there is so much. I made flashcards. I feel like that's just, I mean, there's so many terms. The first paragraph in the first book I picked up on witchcraft was, you cannot claim to be a witch until you have been studying for at least a year. Yes. Like, that I was not even allowed to claim that title. Yep. Now, I wasn't comfortable doing it at that point anyway, so it wasn't a big deal for me. I'm still not comfortable but they were saying you shouldn't be practicing, collecting items, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that would have been back in 2011. I mean, that's still something that came up when I was
for sure.
This, and I'm like, it seems so strict, and like there's so many rules, and it's like they're not rules.
And it's understandable, of course, that you want to have a general understanding. And I think that that's more so what these people are trying to say is, don't jump in because it's a fad. Make sure it makes sense to you. But that is way different than saying you have to study for a year, and you have to journal, and you have to do your shadow work, and you have to have somebody buy you a tarot deck. You have to have these crystals. Like,
it's not a college degree.
No.
And I think
it is a life journey for you.
I think that's something that needs to be said, is it's not a college degree. There's not rules. It's not like there's specific written out rules to this, and I think that's important
to point out. And you know, witches in media and so many like misconceptions are a couple of things that we're about to go into. And just, you know, the first one that we listed here is all witches wear black. Like, witches are dressed in this drab cup, like you know,
wear what you want.
Wear what you want. There is no uniform. If you feel comfortable and you want to go out in the world looking like a badass witch, then do it. If you want to wear your little hats and all that stuff, go with your bad self.
What makes you happy?
If you want to go out in sportswear and practice, do you, muddy? Like,
practice stuff in my pajamas.
Seriously, like, there is no, like, that's a huge misconception, is that you have to wear a certain thing or have a cloak or have a wand. Like,
there's a huge thing about wands, and I don't have any.
I do, in fact, have a wand. I made it. Well, no, my wand I didn't make. My very good friend Sam got it for me. But one thing that is a huge misconception is that items on their own are magical. Now, there are items that are. I don't want to discredit that. But I'm saying that if you hold a wand in your hand and point it at something, nothing's going to happen. You don't have an idea. You don't have intention. You know, it's a belief system. It's intending for something to happen. Just because you are handed an item doesn't automatically make you a witch. That is a total misconception. It's kind of a lot of work, to be honest with you. Like, not in a bad way, but it's just not that simple.
I think that kind of takes us into intention.
Yes.
Intention is huge, and you're going to hear that a lot from us.
Yes, intention is everything, and when we say intention, it is trying to find a way to put this in easy words to understand.
Something that you've told me when I got started with this, something that I have struggled with is well, I struggle with intrusive thoughts.
Yes.
And so when I'm working on this stuff, it's like I'll be trying to make a spell jar, and with the intention of it being like for self-love.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'm making it, my ADD brain and stuff just has these intrusive thoughts of
anxious, or
what if I give this person this jar and it ruins their life? And
yeah.
Because I have some weird intrusive thought about something when I'm making it. And
but that's not what your intention is. If your intention is pure and good and you are doing...
It's like those intrusive thoughts aren't mine, and I needed to recognize that and know that, like, I went into it with the intention that it's for self-love, and and I think what I do, I say it out loud when I'm making it. I'm like, I'm creating this for self-love. If I say it out loud, I feel like I'm putting more intention.
Absolutely. And for me, that's writing. So that's just an example of a difference between us and, again, what resonates with you. She is very verbal. You've always been very verbal.
I write a lot, too, and I think just saying it or writing it gets it out into the universe versus keeping it in your mind.
And just speaking on intrusive thoughts really quick, that's why shadow work is so important. And we will, I guarantee you, have a whole series on shadow work. But shadow work has to do with getting truly to your roots and dealing with all of your crap, basically. It has to do with everything, with just letting go of things and disproving those intrusive thoughts that you have and becoming your highest self, stepping into your best self. And that's what this whole craft is about. Like, it is not some big, scary, negative thing. And one thing I should have said at the very beginning of this video, and I forgot to put it in the end of our disclaimer there, was, do what ye will, do harm to no one. So what that means is, whatever you want to do in this craft is okay if you are not causing harm to another person or being or whatever it may be. So again, your intention is everything. If your intentions are positive, then those are the results that you're going to get. If your intentions are negative, those are the results that you're going to get. So just make sure that when you're doing things throughout your journey, that you're doing them with pure intentions and not in a malicious way.
Witchcraft does not have to be religious.
Yes.
That's a huge one.
That's a huge thing.
I've never been a religious person. I never went to church. I didn't grow up a religious person. And so a lot of what you read when you start witch stuff, like, once you start into this, there's so much about religion.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Right.
And that's kind of why I don't claim a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like it doesn't apply to what I do.
Absolutely.
And when I first got started, I read so much about religion that I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't for me.
Yep.
And then it's like, it's not about religion.
And that's more, so that kind of brings us into the differences between those things.
Yeah.
So just a real quick touch on that, because she's absolutely right. For some people, this is a very religious experience. For some people, it is a way of life. That's kind of the way it is for she and I. Like, it is just such an ingrained part of our everyday life. Like, we don't have to go do something every specific week or, do all of these things. Like, it is just a very personal thing. Now, the differences between paganism, Wicca, and witchcraft. You are going to hear people interchange those words all the time. I'm sure that you've noticed that I say the craft or witchcraft because that is more along the non-religious side. So paganism is an umbrella term. Paganism is everything to do with earth-based religions. So pagans take everything from the earth. That's where they harness their power from. Has nothing to do with gods and goddesses and all the crazy stuff. Bye-bye, light.
Okay.
And all of that. Now moving into Wicca, which is something that branched off of paganism, that is more of a religious standpoint from those things. And what that means is Wiccans use, what exactly did I put here? The tradition of witchcraft. So they use old methods, different holidays and things that have always been celebrated as more religious, like, because they have specific things that they do, specific things that they act on. Whereas witchcraft is a skill set, just like we talked about our spirit practices, tarot, astrology, all of those things, is a skill set in addition to old traditions. So to kind of sum that up and make it make a little bit more sense, every witch or Wiccan is by default a pagan because we are an earth-based religion. However, you can be a pagan and not practice any magic or ritual types at all and still be an earth-based religion. That would be somebody that claims paganism. Somebody that claims Wicca goes by the old traditions. They're not really about the modern witchcraft and stuff like that.
Witchcraft does not equal Satanism.
Oh, that is so important. That is a huge misconception, is that witchcraft has something to do with Satan. Just to throw this out there, most witches, and again, I will never speak on all witches, most witches do not even believe in the existence of heaven or hell. So how was that correlation ever even made? I'll tell you in the History of Witchcraft video coming in a couple of weeks, but not right now. But that's a huge misconception, is that it's just evil and dark. And just like we just said, do harm to no one. Does that sound negative and dark to you? Does an earth-based religion sound
It's very
dark?
about discovering who you are and bettering your life and your spirituality.
And using the resources that the world and the universe have given us, our elements, earth, air, water, fire, all of those things, natural things. It is not some crazy supernatural,
And I feel like a lot of that has also come from, the history of it, but then a lot of it has also come from media too.
Oh yeah. Witches and media, and we are probably not going to go into specific shows, films, stuff like that, just because we don't want to
You've seen them.
upset people, but the way that witches have been portrayed in film, media, all of that has been just dark. I feel, for the most part. There's been some really good portrayals.
There's some good portrayals, but there's some that are just so off the wall.
Yeah, negative, all about evil, all about demons and stuff like that. Like, that is a whole different entity. Like, that is not the craft in itself. Those are things that we may have to deal with, like, in a situational standpoint, but so would anybody else in any other religion or walk of life. If you're going to deal with a demon, you're going to deal with a demon. It has nothing to do with witchcraft. And let's see.
The coven part.
Oh, yeah. And when it comes to actual practice, you don't have to do it with a group of people. You don't have to do it under a full moon. You don't have to do it, in any specific way. If you want to practice by yourself, practice by yourself. If you want to practice in a coven, practice in a coven, which is multiple witches if you don't know that. So I have always been a solitary witch. I've always done stuff extremely personally. There's been, I think 2 times where I've worked with another witch. Sam is the first person I have ever had a comfort level with to openly practice with. And even then, we've only done, a handful of things.
Yeah, a lot of what we do is just like spirit work.
Spirit work, yes.
And I think in those situations, it does help to have another person there.
Mm-hmm.
But,
absolutely.
by no means do you need a coven, and by no means do you have to, follow these, again, set rules.
Yeah, there's no set rules on how you need to practice.
In a certain way. Mm-hmm. And that was another thing that was intimidating to me. It was, stuff about having to find a coven and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know where to find that.
Absolutely. Is there a bulletin board somewhere? Is this Animal Crossing? Does someone post up on there?
Something that I struggle with is when you do research on this, I struggle with reading, so books are expensive. It's hard to just read books.
Yes.
The internet's way easier to do research on, but
you don't know what's valid and what's not.
And it's hard to find anything. It's
Absolutely.
Still very hard. When I started with tarot, I was trying to find a meaning behind cards. I wanted a list of what every card meant. And all I could find was you give it your own meaning. And I'm
they all have a generalized meaning, but you figure out the specifics for yourself.
Yeah, and when I read that, I'm I don't understand what that means.
Right.
They said to look at the pictures of the tarot cards, and the tarot card deck that I first bought was just a very generic tarot deck. It didn't come with an instruction book. It didn't come with anything. And
all decks are different, too. They all have very specific... I don't want to say very specific, because all of the cards, are, just like I said, have a generalized meaning. However, back to resonation, and what resonates with you is what you pull from your readings, what you pull from your cards.
And then, like, when I did, like, a little pull for myself, and I got the Fool card. I got that as I was getting ready to leave my job, and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what to make of that, and everyone's just like, just look at the pictures, just see what it means to you. What does it feel like? I'm like, I don't know.
Exactly.
And so, like, when I asked you, I'm like, does that mean that I'm being foolish by leaving my job?
Nope.
I didn't know what the Fool represented.
Yeah, and in that, tarot will be an entire episode. We're just kind of dabbling. Like, these things are just so...
very scratching the surface.
Yeah, very scratching the surface. But we want you guys to know that there are just so many differences in how people practice. And just like we keep saying, take what resonates with you. Take what makes sense. Take what makes you feel good. And we are also going to go into, like, different types of witches. And I know that we said kind of at the beginning of this video that titles are not everything. They're not. If you do not want to claim a specific title, don't. Like, for example, I consider myself to be an eclectic witch. An eclectic witch takes things from literally all practices. That's tarot, astrology, herb work, spirit work, you name it. And some witches, especially witches that are natural born witches or people that have practiced through their family, they are very specific in how they practice, but it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, so I guess that takes us into our types of witches, and I think, like, with me, I'm like, I didn't want to put a label on myself because everything
you still struggle to put a label on yourself even now,
and I think that's because of the way I take things from everything. Like, I do a lot with plants, and I do a lot with herbs, and I love using crystals, and I like tarot. And I just kind of dabble in everything and find what I like, what works for me, and what doesn't.
Exactly. And that's how it should be. And you might find that one of the groups that we go into, you're like, oh my gosh, I've always loved that. I've always been obsessed with that. The other stuff really doesn't make too much sense, or it doesn't resonate with me. Then you might be a crystal witch. You might be a hedge witch. Like, we'll go into all of those details, but you claim what makes sense for you. And that's why we want to go into these details, so that maybe one of these you're like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. I want to keep watching. I want to learn more about this. That's why, even though we said at the beginning here, don't worry about labels, we want to see if at least, one of these things clicks for you. And we want to keep you guys around, and we would love to explore all of these things with you. So we're excited to have you here.
Starting with witches, let's start with the traditional.
Yeah, so a traditional witch, and this is somebody that would be considered doing the old practices, old traditions. So when you're looking at the Sabbats, which are Wiccan holidays, or witch holidays, however you would like to say it, they practice old traditions. So you're going to go in, back in history type of old traditions. So that's going to be a lot of people who've been born witches, come through their family, stuff like that. And even modern witches practice a lot of old traditions. So that traditional is kind of just an all-encompassing term that I would say is kind of parallel to eclectic in a way. It just depends on how modern your practice is how I would say that.
And then green witch or earth witch?
Green witch. Oh yeah, we skipped kitchen, but we'll skip to green.
We'll go back.
Yeah, so a green witch or an earth witch, I'm assuming you would know by the title, they are outside witches. They take and harness all of their power from the earth. So Sam is somebody that, if I was looking at her and didn't know her as well as I did and just went by a lot of things that she did, she would be considered a green witch for me, because she is all about being outside. She takes everything from nature. I
love being outside. I feel like something that I read that stuck with me is a good way to feel energy is to go outside and just stand on the grass barefoot. Mm-hmm. Just stand.
Yep, which is a grounding technique as well. So even if you're not in the craft, do that. It's so good for you.
That, and then I love plants and growing plants.
Mm-hmm. I do not have a green thumb at all.
Yeah, I think that's that, and then being with where I ride horses. I've grown up outdoors.
Absolutely. So
I love being outside.
Yes, and I do too. I did a lot more when I was younger, and as I got older, a lot of my jobs were more inside. Adulthood happens, and she's really helped me to get back to my roots, for lack of a better way to put it, and spend more time outside and spend more time grounding myself and using resources from the earth. I don't have to go to an occult store to be successful in my craft.
And I think as far as like my craft and like using, if I do spell jars or anything, I like to grow things myself or find things in nature myself.
Yeah.
A lot of like my spell jars, like yours, have a lot of things that you've bought at like the craft stores and things. Whereas I feel like it kind of takes away some of it for me.
Yeah.
Where I like to use my own plants, my own dirt. Like
Absolutely.
I like to go find dirt, rocks,
Absolutely.
pine cones. It's all stuff that I find or make myself.
And that is not going to make either of us less successful because our intentions are the same. So that just brings us back full circle to intention. Just because you practice differently doesn't mean that you're not going to have the same end result. So keep that in mind as we go through these videos with you guys.
And I think like also like moon water and stuff. Like
you
use moon water more. I like to use rainwater.
Yep.
I like to collect my rainwater for stuff.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like it just...
And I'm all about the moon in the ocean, which is a different type of witchcraft too that I am super connected with. So like I said, there's a freaking list. And to be honest with you, I only put the main ones on here. I probably didn't put like 8 or 9.
Once again, just scratching the surface.
Just scratching the surface. And I feel like it comes from people's need to have a title and need to be able to consider themselves something. And that was a really hard thing for me to get over, was to be like, no, I'm just broke. Like this is what I practice. This is what I do. And that's okay.
Yeah. That's a lot of that. When you start into this, you find a lot of types of witches and like a lot of labels, and you're
they all just branch off of each other. Like kitchen witch, for example. Kitchen witch and green witch pretty much go hand in hand. So a kitchen witch is somebody who loves to bake and create and make, and they love to bring people into their home. That's where they do everything, is in their home. That's their comfort level. But of course, they're going to bring things in to bake, to create, to do things from the outside. So you can imagine that green witch being up here, we've got kitchen witch over here. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a branch off of those, but they're different enough that I felt okay to put them as separate things.
And I think going into the next one here, going from our green witch to hedge witch, because it kind of sounds like...
Yep, you would think, and
that it would
I actually learned this because I brought it up to you. I have spent my entire life, or through my craft, thinking that hedge, like a bush, right? Like that has something to do with green witchery or something like that. But I learned that it is actually taken and derived from the idea of jumping the hedge, which means from our realistic world into the spirit world. So this is something that she and I both dabble with. She has a natural ability for it. She's phenomenal. And a hedge witch has everything to do with kind of meshing the spirit world with our world. And they are constantly trying to communicate between our world and the spirit world. And a lot of dream work is common. They do a lot of work in communication and dreams. All of those things are you as well.
That kind of leads into something. When I first started this last year, something that was happening for me, which was really wild. Anytime I started practicing anything, if I had my tarot deck out or anything, I would have, when I would go to sleep that night, it would be like I was half asleep. And I would be communicating with like spirits of other witches. And they would be teaching me things, like very important things. And they taught me all night long. Like I woke up feeling like I was in school.
Probably didn't even sleep. You were in
like
school.
I didn't sleep at all. And it was, what bothered me about it was I'd wake up and I wouldn't remember a thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't remember anything they told me, but I knew.
But that's all in your subconscious too. So that's all, I'm sure, ideas that they were to kind of plant there for you to grow off of. And man,
I think it scared me because I felt like they were giving me warnings and I forgot what they were. And I was like, well, I don't want to mess anything up. And
so that gave you that anxiety starting.
It was scary.
Yeah.
And like, even just with my tarot cards, I was terrified of my tarot cards.
I remember you telling me that. And it's, I feel so bad that I wasn't there at the very beginning of your journey. But I think that we met each other exactly when we were supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I love about...
happens as it should.
Absolutely. That's what I love about our journey is, just like I said in the beginning, we have grown so much together. Like, I have helped her with her anxieties. She's helped me with mine around the craft and just teaching each other and learning more. And we've dabbled, like, all the other types of witchcraft that we're going to go into, we have dabbled in every single one of them, which is, again, why I consider myself to be eclectic, because I love it all. So we just talked about hedge witch. So elemental witch is another one that's huge. And this, again, goes along with green witch because it's things that are natural. So they work with the 4 elements. They work with earth, fire, air, and water. Anything that they can see, touch, feel, hear, work with the senses. They like more physical things that they can work with. But also things that you can find out in the world that you do not have to create. So again, that is another branch off of green witch there, by using the things that are already sourced and available to you. Sea witch. This is, I feel like, a huge fad right now because everybody is all about the moon, as they should be. Moon is extremely important. So it's called a sea witch because the moon, of course, as we know, controls the tides, controls the seas. So witches that abide kind of by the moon phases and do their manifesting during the moon phases, which is something that we do every single moon cycle. That's extremely important to us. Yeah.
Like sometimes I just don't feel like doing as much, but I'll leave like my tarot cards out to cleanse or whatever.
Yep, throw some water outside.
Like, I got to do a whole spell and everything. Like I get really into it, but it just like depends on my mood.
Shout out to Witch Lab too for the fact that they make specific moon spell kits. They make them in-house by their witches and stuff there. Witch Lab is fantastic. We'll get into that later, but I just wanted to throw that tidbit. So if you're kind of starting out and you're very interested in the moon cycles and are worried about items that you may need, go get one of their kits. They're between $25 and $40, and you get like 6 items in there. 10 out of 10.
You get like a crystal, you get a little tea bag with some herbs in it.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so for our Columbus people.
Witch Lab.
Or just check out, like, Google witch stores near me.
Yep, there's so many occult stores, and just off of that,
literally
like,
all I did was Google witch stores, and I found a ton in Columbus. I didn't even know were here.
Right, and I feel like all of them kind of have a little niche in a way. Like, I love Witch Lab because it's all inclusive. All of the different types of things we're discussing right now, you're going to find what you need there. Versus when we're talking about Magic Druid, which is another phenomenal place that I love. They are very herb friendly. So they have a whole lot of herbs. They have a lot of incense. They have stuff like that. And then when we're talking about, what's the one with all the crystals that we loved?
Raven's Cauldron.
Raven's Cauldron. Obviously they have a ton of stuff. We love Raven's Cauldron. But the amount of crystals and appropriately harvested crystals, and we'll talk about that in a crystal episode, but if you want to know that they're coming from a good spot, Raven's Cauldron, Delaware, Ohio, 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need to get into once we get into herbs and crystals in a later episode, is how to know when they're...
Yes.
When they come from a genuine place.
Genuine places
versus
are so
finding
important.
them at, like, Walmart.
Yeah.
Or,
like, I will tell you, I used to shop at Tropical Trends when I first started.
I still do.
Those, for sure. Like, if I need something in a pinch, it's cheap. I know they're going to have it.
I don't buy my sage there.
Right. And as long as, again, my intention is where it's supposed to be, I can get what I need to get. Generally speaking, though, those might not be sourced from appropriate sources or ones that we would want versus this jade came from Kuwait. I don't know. Like, yeah, but they'll tell you exactly where this stuff comes from. It's really kind of awesome.
Okay.
And then we kind of already talked about Hereditary Witch, which is just somebody who's kind of born into the craft and somebody who kind of had it passed down through their family. A lot of them had practicing ancestors and then just continued to go down the line from there.
Witch Lab had a book called Badass Ancestors.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I almost bought it because it's really cool, but I don't know my ancestry as far as this goes, and no one, as far as I know, has ever been into this, so I didn't buy the book.
And mind you, witchcraft was illegal until the late 60s. That's probably why there's not anything anywhere. But
we'll save that for history.
We'll save that for history, but I just wanted to throw that in there that even though this is an old religion and predates Christianity, this is still a culture and I
feel that it's newly growing because it's finally being accepted.
It's finally being accepted. That's exactly where I was going with that. See, this is why I need her in my life, because I don't know how to talk.
Eclectic Witches.
And finally, Eclectic Witches. So all of the things that we just listed, anything that resonates with you. If you're like, I love the moon phases and manifestation, and I love crystals, and I love this, and I love that, and all of these things work together.
If I had to pick a title, that's what I would pick.
Yes, which is why I consider myself an eclectic witch. And honestly, in the 12, 13 years I've been doing this, not one time have I been asked about my title. Do not let it concern you. It is all about you. Yep. Your journey is about you. Just don't hurt anybody else while you're doing it. Honestly, just to finish out this video,
I think it says trust in the universe, believe in yourself, and your born gifts, powers, and you can do anything. Yes. I think that's something that we're going to talk about a lot, is also trusting the universe.
Yes, trusting the universe, yourself. And I'm actually just going to write or read exactly what I wrote here because I think it's important. Just like we've talked about a million times, everything in the craft is about intention, as we touched on earlier. No specific amount of items or spells are magical or successful without pure intention. So again, like we said with the wands, you're not just going to flick a wand and it's going to be everything. You in yourself are magic. The universe is full of magic. You have to trust in it. You have to harness it. You have to listen to yourself and to the world around you.
And I think something else that kind of brings up is, like, when I do any sort of spell work or any kind of work, I'm always careful to thank the universe for
always.
Everything.
Oh, that's so important.
That's something that's very important when you get started, is making sure that you show that you have to show gratitude and give thanks to the universe. And there's
above
a lot
and beyond
of different
the craft
ways to do that. And
yeah,
I mean, you can journal it and just journal about your gratitude, or
verbalize it, like give something back to the universe. Like, that is so important. And gratitude is something I preach all day, every day. It is above and beyond just the craft. The universe gives you so much that you don't even realize. It is everything. Like, anytime something good happens to me, I find a freaking $2 laying on the ground. Thank you, Mother Universe. That is something that I didn't have before that I have now. And again, nothing happens for no reason.
That, and I also think, like, spirits that I work with, and you can write about it, or you can, like, what I do, I always leave out, like, candy for them or something.
Yeah, most definitely. There's so many ways that you can honor the universe, and all of it is, again, a personal journey. How you want to say thank you, what resonates with you is so important.
Like, I love candy, so I leave them candy.
Yes. Or like crystals, like if a crystal breaks that I'm using, like, I have started burying those and giving them back to the universe, because you know what? Somebody's probably going to find those one day and it's going to be exactly what they need. And I think that is a way that you can give back. It can be physical items or thanks.
I think that kind of takes us back to something here. Like the TikTok, the witch talk thing, because that's kind of huge in this discussion here.
Yeah.
There's things that they tell you about on TikTok, like the hematite rings. And if you don't know, they're the rings that you wear them and they absorb negative energy, and when they have absorbed too much, they break.
Yes.
So I had one, and they didn't say anything what to do with it when it breaks. A lot of people are just like, just throw it away.
Yeah, no.
I buried mine.
Yep.
No one told me to do that. I just did it. It felt right. I was like, I'm going to give this back to the universe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or giving the pieces to loved ones. Like, there are so many options. Well, not for that specific stone, I would say, but for others.
I was like, this has negative energy and I don't want it to harm anyone else.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to bury it where it's safe and the universe
can be purified too. Like, back to the earth. I feel like, again, whoever finds that in the future is going to get their use out of it, and the universe is going to do what it needs to do.
Yeah. I think things like that are important. There's a lot of things on TikTok that we'll probably talk about, like tarot readings.
Honestly, I want to do a react to for TikTok. So if we have the ability to, like, pop up a TikTok and we're both like
Yeah.
Just watching it, like, I would love that.
And what was the crystal that everyone was crying about on TikTok?
This is how much it's
Starts with an
Malachi. I know. Yes, isn't that beautiful? I love that. It is whatever. It's supposed to basically uproot your life and get rid of everything that doesn't serve you. Plot twist, you can do that yourself. Just saying.
Crystals like that, things like that people hype up. There's things like that where I heard and believe that if you were meant to find something, it'll come to you. It finds you. You don't find it. And that's how I am with a lot of this.
Yes. Yeah.
Like tarot decks and things. Like, I feel like they come to me.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes to me.
You just feel it. You genuinely feel it. And that's what we talked about at the beginning, is how it may feel to you. But she's absolutely right. And we are going to go into so many details. Like, we keep going.
Yeah.
There's we have so much to branch off of it. But hopefully this caught all of your guys' attention. Like, we have a lot of intentions for this channel, and obviously this started as just makeup and photography. And of course that will be a part of this channel as well. We would love to take you guys along on a photography journey with us. We would love for you guys, like I said, I'm going to be doing Sam's makeup. I'll probably do my own makeup. We might both do our makeup. But this is going to be an empire, is the way that I'm going to put that. We have so many things in store for you guys, and we love all of you to pieces, and we're super excited.
Before we go, let's talk about some of the topics that we have coming up here.
Yeah, we have like a million.
We have them all written down.
So, one thing that I'm extremely passionate about, and it's funny because it's the first thing on her list and it's the first thing on my list, is manifestation. So I've talked about that in some of my live Facebook videos a couple times. I make posts about it all the time. So that will probably be an episode, if not a series, because I would love to teach you guys how to do that too. I'm just going to read through some of these. We have some really amazing experiences together that we've shared through Sam and my abilities. Sam has the ability, like she's stated through this video, to communicate with spirits, and has connected me with people that I never thought I would connect to again. And we will be talking about did you see that? The candles just went. I wish you could see that. That was really cool. We're going to be talking about our experiences with that. We're going to be talking about different abilities that different witches have, tarot and oracle, all of your guys' questions, crystals, herbs.
Moldavite, that was it.
Moldavite is the one. That thing.
That was the crystal I was trying to think
That's
of.
the crystal. Yeah, so if it finds you, let it find you. That means your life's probably about to change, but you don't have to intentionally seek it out. If it's meant to be, it will be.
Okay, crystals, herbs, moon rituals, intentions, cleansings, moon phases, the sun, moon, and star signs,
astrology,
birth charts, different cultures, the history of witchcraft, candles, symbolism, synchronicities, like how to recognize signs,
angel numbers. Literally, there's 100 freaking videos that we could make, and we want to hear from you guys too.
Spell jars, spell work. We might feature some witches on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got some really fun people in mind, actually, which is kind of fun. Grimoire and Book of Shadows. So important. I'm just going to touch on that super, super quick, because as you watch our videos, I want you guys to be thinking about this. So, a Book of Shadows is more personal. So when you're doing like your own readings and you're doing your own personal witch journey and writing about that, your shadow work, all of that stuff will go in what's called a Book of Shadows. Now your grimoire, for example, is going to have all of your more factual information, I would say. So this is more of like a resource book, a dictionary of witchcraft, if you will. And I'm going to bring mine to show, because I've worked...
You worked hard on it.
Extremely hard on both of those things. And we would love for you guys to start building yours through watching these videos with us.
I'm gonna build mine in the video.
Yeah, she's going to build hers in the video. But just have a place to jot down all of your thoughts and ideas and questions and what you learn if you're serious about this. And even if you're not, write down what you're learning, and you're going to look back on that and God knows 6 months, a year, and be like, wow, look where I am now.
Another thing that I want to add real quick, because it kind of goes in with our misconceptions.
Yeah.
Something that came up a lot when I was starting this was that you have to practice every single day, that it's like a commitment. You have to do this every day. You have to do something. You have to work at it every day.
My face.
You have to have like a schedule, a routine. You have to do this every day. It's a big life commitment.
That has not changed in a decade, because I thought the same thing when I started out, but it is not realistic. That's like asking somebody to go to church every day. But my thing is you are practicing all the time. Just the way that Christians might pray constantly, like in their head, like, God, please do this, or whatever it may be. I'm constantly doing things like thanking the universe, asking the universe to bless me with things. Like, it is a constant thing.
It doesn't have to be physical work.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be physical work. Your intention in going out into the world and remaining positive and being a good person is everything. Like, that's all you gotta do. Those are your rules.
Okay.
But yeah.
That's about it for this episode.
For this 58-minute episode.
Thanks for trying to follow along. I know that was
Yes.
kind of a roller coaster.
It was.
But there's not like a specific path through this. And I think that's why this is a little scattered.
And I feel like they're going to get more specific as the videos continue.
Oh yeah,
but
we're going to touch specific points in each video, but this is just the gist of it if you're getting started and you're just now following our journey and all of this. But there is no like specific path through this. There's not a specific way to follow this.
Nope.
So that's why it seems chaotic, because it is.
Yeah, it is chaotic, but it is so much fun. And above and beyond the whole, spiritual aspect of it, you are going to fall in love with yourself. Because this spiritual practice has so much to do with self-work and loving yourself and being true to yourself and honoring the world and those around you. And you will notice so many positive changes in your life. But I think that wraps everything up for today. I'm really excited about this.
Me too.
This was a blast. I was actually extremely nervous about filming.
Same.
And then the second we recorded, I was just like, oh, this is fine. Me and Sam are on a trip 12 hours again.
Well, that's
talking
why I
in
was
the car.
like, a lot of this first episode is just going to be ad-lib, because we do this all the time. We just
All
bounce ideas back and forth. And
this
talk
is
about
us
it like
24/7.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for tuning
Thank
in. We are super excited to continue this journey with you. And yeah, I'm sure we'll come out with some fun outro. But for now, I'm just going to finger gun you.
Oh my God.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.